Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to stand alongside with the other youngsters in the Labour Party and denigrate this bill, because I was one of those people, Mr Speaker, who, when it first came to the House, we had a bit of fun with it because we knew that secret ballots, every union ran a secret ballot before a strike, and we thought it was all a bit of nonsense. But of course, then when the bill went to the Select Committee and submitters pointed out the perils and the bureaucracy that this would bring about, common sense prevailed. And I want to acknowledge my colleagues, my Labour colleagues and the Green Party, who listened to the majority of submitters and who said common sense has to prevail and this bill should not proceed. Now, Mr Alan Peachey, the great educationalist, he put a challenge out to us. He said, get in touch with workers. Well, I'm going to tell Mr Peachey that we've been in touch with education workers a lot over the last few weeks, right from early childhood right through to tertiary. And we went to the early childhood teachers recently, packed hall, about 300 early childhood teachers. They are so over this government. The cuts to the quality of their teaching. Then we talk to the primary teachers. They are so over this government. This is what the government wants us to do, to get in touch with workers. We got in touch with education workers. The post-primary, they're in turmoil, so are the tertiary education. And what we are seeing under this government is more strife and turmoil, and actually strikes, than we have seen in the last 9 years. And why? Because this government, and this is the cheek of it, this is the cheek of silly old Alan Peachey saying that we are going backwards. This is the government, this is the party who voted against. What did they do when they came in the 90s? Got rid of pay equity, got rid of the Apprenticeship Act, got rid of the employment, introduced the Employment Contracts Act. This is a party that absolutely goes kapow, flip-flop backwards. They can't help themselves. Chester Burrows is looking nothing short of embarrassed because he's not a bad guy. He has to be the best Select Committee chair in this House, Mr Speaker. I'm not even going to comment on Paul Quinn. He's made a complete idiot of himself today with his bill, and he's closely followed by Tau Hinarei. Now, this bill is absolutely ridiculous, and for a party who wants to cut bureaucracy, it is just a joke. This is nothing short of nanny state. This is nanny state. Red tape, nanny state, that's the National Party. And for what? Where is the problem? And in fact, the members of the committee, Labour, put a proposal and said, we do not disagree that there should be there should be a ballot regarding strike action. So look, let's just make it that unions have to provide for it. Wouldn't that have been a more common sense solution? Wouldn't that have been sensible? Wouldn't that have been a little bit less 90s? But no, this national government just couldn't get it. They just couldn't get it. They just couldn't work it out because they don't understand. And to sit over there in their seats in the peanut gallery saying that they are in touch with workers has to be the biggest joke. I have never seen so many annoyed workers in New Zealand in my life, not since the 1990s. We've talked about the teachers, we've talked about health workers, we see Judith Collins, the poor correction staff, is subject to having her as a minister. It's just another shambles. And this government sits over there and wastes this House's time when we have good bills on the order paper that my good friend Charles Chevelle has assisted in drafting that would actually help, would improve life for New Zealanders, but no, this is the government that wants to deal to workers. And I'm going to go back to that early childhood meeting, because do you know what? Someone put up their hand and they said, why is it that people don't get it? Why doesn't the government get it? Because they are really annoying teachers right across the spectrum. And actually, most people have got a lot of respect for teachers. And we said to them, because they don't talk about teachers, they don't talk about nurses, they don't talk about doctors, they talk about unions. Because they're not interested in workers' rights, and they think that if they attack unions and imply that unions are the dinosaurs that Tauhenere are, that's going to somehow justify their old, archaic, really silly policies that they're putting up, like the 90-day sack-at-will bill, like the restricting rights of union officials to go to workplaces, and it just so it goes on. Mr. Speaker, we all know, anybody that's been a union official would know, and I'm really proud that I've been a union official. Anybody would know, except Tauhenere, because I don't think he was in touch with his members, and I don't want to get personal, but we all know that he is a bit of a bully, and I think he never took the time. He's one of those union officials who fortunately we don't see much of now, but he was a bit of a bully and he just tried to tell people what they should do. Now, that is not the case now, and unions are accountable to their members. They do, and we do not promote strike action unless it is absolutely essential, and it is becoming more essential under this government. It is becoming more essential, more common under this government, and it is our last resort, because nobody wants to see workers withdraw their labour and lose money unless it is absolutely necessary. And so a secret ballot is held, because that is what the members, that is what the union believes is the right thing to do. But the other reason, and this is why it is so important, is because there has to be a clear mandate. Because if workers don't vote to go on strike, and if they don't believe in what they're doing, then they simply won't go on strike. No one makes them do it. They do it because, as many workers are, they are so annoyed as they all protest. No one drags those workers down outside Parliament here and says, you tell this government how lousy they are. They do it all by themselves. They do it all by themselves. All the petitions that they bring down to Parliament, to these grounds, often out in the rain, to tell this government how bad they are for workers. They are not told to do that. They do it of their own free will. And so, Mr. Speaker, this bill is a joke. It is an absolute joke, and we could have let it go. But the point is that it does create, and there could be mischief. And what would mischief mean? That legitimate strike action, an employer could challenge it. And I'll tell you something, Tauhenere is a mischievous man. If anyone has said anything, he's a bit of a scamp. He's not offended, he's flattered. Look at him, he's got a big smile on his face. He is full of mischief. And he's laughing up there, he's sitting in the back seat there laughing, thinking, look, it is all a bit silly, but I've had a bit of fun with this. But the reality is that he's made the national government again look really, really silly. Really silly, out of touch, and back to the 90s. And that is not where labour relations should be in this country, Mr. Speaker. Labour relations should be where unions are fully democratic, they're accountable to their members, because members actually join voluntarily. There's not like Toe in his day. People didn't want him for their union official. Who would blame them? And he said, it's compulsory unionism, you've got to have me. Well, unions don't operate like that in this country now. People join of their own free will because they need that protection, particularly when they have a government like this who is so anti-union and anti-worker. Mr. Speaker, this bill is offensive. It's offensive to workers. It's